Welcome to the R.M.Williams Outback podcast. This is Terry Cowley, Associate Editor of R.M.Williams Outback magazine. Hello there and welcome to the podcast. Today we are talking about connection and the challenges of getting a good connection across our vast country. Across Australia, families, business people and communities depend on fast, reliable and affordable connectivity. Some say it's a human right now that so much of our lives and work, not to mention government services and banking, has migrated to the digital realm in the wake of COVID. But while dependable mobile and internet services have never been more vital to public safety, business, education, health and social relationships, they're by no means guaranteed throughout regional, remote and rural Australia. Writer Amanda Burdon took a deep dive into how we can conquer this digital divide for Outback. She joins me now from regional New South Wales. I'm in regional Victoria. Let's hope we have a good enough connection for this conversation. Hi, Amanda.
Hello, Terry. How are you?
Very well, thank you. In doing this research, you concluded that getting rural Australia connected is now more important than ever. Are people actually conquering this divide, do you think? And if so, how are they doing it?
Well, my research showed that we can't necessarily rely on governments to provide all the solutions, although there is quite a lot happening in that space. My research showed that people are actually, as you'd expect in rural and regional Australia, quite ingenious in coming up with their own solutions. And we've seen a plethora of small companies land who are working very closely with rural and regional people to come up with the kinds of solutions that work best for them in their landscape. And I guess by that I'm meaning all sorts of ingenious Wi-Fi mesh networks and private satellite setups and vehicle-mounted boosters and even home relay systems. And we're seeing quite a bit of that going on now to extend the wireless and satellite coverage and give people the kind of services that we all need, but we all also deserve.
You've actually come up with some great examples. Maybe if you can highlight a few, because as you say, they are very ingenious.
I guess one of the really interesting ones that I came across was Jack Carmody on Prentice Station. He's come up with a way to extend the existing signal on their property. He's got this solar-powered fixed wireless network he's rigged up using a tower made of recycled drill rod connected to 7 repeater stations. And that's bringing high-speed connectivity to their place so that they can do all the normal things like running their schoolroom and live streaming videos back to the homestead and monitoring water points and so on like that. He was a former Army reservist who had certain skills in this area, but he basically taught himself how to connect this system up so that his family could do the sorts of things that they needed to do. So that's one example, and it's a very far-flung one, but there are all sorts of other interesting operators emerging who are devising systems using Wi-Fi towers, and they're building them in some quite rough and rugged terrain to try and extend the existing wireless or satellite coverage. Along that vein, we're seeing all sorts of companies recognising that locals can often come up with the best solutions, and these sorts of companies are now developing the systems and rolling them out on a catchment-wide or a regional basis.
Well, I guess necessity being the mother of invention. In the absence of government infrastructure, people are really having to come up with their own solutions. And what you just described with the 7 repeater stations, etc., absolutely blows my mind. I would have no clue how any of that actually works. But there really is a patchwork quilt of technologies, but they're not stitched together, are they?
No, that's the problem. We've got people in different parts of the country reliant on different systems, and we don't have the same equity of access or the same affordable services. And that's the injustice of it all, the fact that we can't necessarily rely on the same reliable services wherever we travel in the country. And that's what makes it such an inequitable system. It's not just that people can't have those guaranteed services. It's also that the cost of delivering those services is high in quite distant parts of the country. So not only do you not have the service, you're having to pay an arm and a leg for that service.
So we're basically saying it's a jungle of technologies from mobile broadband to fixed line, fixed wireless satellite services, including emerging low Earth orbit satellites, things that people might know such as SkyMaster, Starlink. I myself have just gone down the Starlink route. I'm only 2 hours from Melbourne, but I couldn't get good enough coverage to be able to work from home. And you've got only 33% of Australia's land mass having mobile coverage, which a lot of other more urbanised countries must think is vaguely ridiculous.
Yes. I mean, our communications minister will tell us that we've got the best telecommunications in the world, but that's not of any consolation to people who are in distant parts of the country, who can't log on to government services, Indigenous communities that can't access basic telehealth. It is a very inequitable system, and there are a lot of people desperate for the next generation of wireless technology that's going to replace some of the satellites that they've come to depend upon.
What you're touching on there is 11% of Australians are highly excluded from digital services. And obviously, those community leaders fear that poor connectivity and connectivity literacy threaten the continued sustainability of their regions. That connectivity literacy is an important point, isn't it?
It is, because it's not just about having a service. It's understanding the technology and the equipment that you're using, understanding the plan that you're on and what your provider will guarantee you. And then if you're miles from anywhere, being able to troubleshoot when you've got a problem. And I've had some personal experience of this of late. We're still on an ADSL internet coverage system here. I'm actually at the moment, to conduct this interview with you, hotspotting from my mobile phone. Fortunately, we have good mobile phone coverage here, but Telstra are doing some repairs to our internet service, and we've been without an internet service here for a week now. And the data that I'm downloading from my mobile phone is now astronomical. So we're finding that people not only have difficulties with their connections, they have difficulties understanding what to do in the event of an emergency like that, what to do when things do go awry and the technology isn't working as well as it should be. And if you're miles from anywhere, you don't have a Telstra shop down the road that you can just pop into and get some advice. You're often waiting days and weeks to have the equipment repaired or even to have someone come out and look at it if you're lucky enough to have a technician able to visit you. The thing that a lot of people said to me when I was speaking to them about the challenges that they face is that you've really got to have two systems. If you've got one form of connectivity, you've got none, because in the event of a fault or a wet season interference or some sort of an unforeseen storm or something like that, you're left without any backup. So most people tend to have two alternatives, because at least in the event of a storm or some sort of a fault, they've at least got one service that they can rely on.
Yeah, and I mean, how important is that in times of disaster?
Absolutely. And, you've got really remote communities and families and businesses that rely on that connectivity now, not just for their businesses and to run their operations, but for their healthcare, for the education of their children, for really vital social connectivity, which, as we all know, is really important to our health and well-being.
I think it was the president of the Australian Local Government Association, Linda Scott, who was saying that some residents in some communities have been unable to eat because they couldn't purchase food without access to online banking. I mean, it really is vital.
Absolutely. And in a lot of very remote communities, and I'm talking here about First Nations communities ostensibly, people are reliant on prepaid mobile phone data for their connectivity. And if you use up all that data and can't access vital government services, then you're really in a bad way.
I was a bit surprised to hear the NBN spokesperson, Sam DeMarco, say while the digital gap is closing, in his view, efforts need to be accelerated, and that we now have 17 million Australians using NBN on a daily basis. I actually went and looked up the population of Australia because I was like, what actually is the population now, and how much of that are using NBN on a daily basis? A lot. And the demand for data data has tripled over the past 3 years, and they're predicting a 300% increase in the next 10 years. So all of these challenges and problems that we're talking about, if they're not addressed, they're just going to get so much worse.
That's right. And a lot of people talk to me about this digital divide, which is creating populations of haves and have-nots. People who can take full advantage of the technology, adopt all sorts of great ag tech, telehealth facilities, wonderful educational resources for their kids. But then you've got the other side of the coin where you have a great many people who are denied those things. And so even with things like the mobile black spot program, there have been more than 1,200 new mobile base stations rolled out. We've got promises of 5G advanced technology. We've got the NBN rollout, as you've spoken about. Even with all of those things, there are still a great many people who don't have access to basic services. And it's not just making it difficult for them to live daily. It's playing into all sorts of business decisions that people are making now about where they live and work. And this is going to have quite a critical bearing on regional development moving forward. I mean, I spoke to people who were saying that real estate decisions are now being made based on whether a region has good connectivity or not. We heard from Alistair McDonald on Brightlands, a very significant employer of people, saying that they simply can't get people to go out and work on these remote cattle stations unless there is good Wi-Fi. And this is something that the new generation of people joining the workforce have come to expect. So if it can't be delivered, we're going to be denied a great many people who we need to be populating the regions.
Absolutely. I mean, you talked to the National Farmers Federation, who said that boosting the value of agricultural production absolutely depends on this connectivity.
Yes, these are the very things. It's about having the capacity to use the latest technology that we need to run effective businesses in rural and regional Australia. And I'm not just talking there about devices to manage livestock or to conduct market transactions or to monitor water sources. I'm talking about basic connectivity that allows a family to have an off-farm business and to be able to run that business effectively from a regional centre, or the kinds of educational opportunities that younger people need to study online from a regional area. So these sorts of developments that ensure viable regional populations, that boost the workforce, that support the sort of secondary manufacturing that we're starting to see in regional areas, they're all really important elements in any population's ability to meet the needs of the future. And it's really critical that connectivity is guaranteed so that our regions can move forward and can take full advantage of these sorts of opportunities.
You did mention telehealth, and of course there's the whole education online. We had Schools of the Air that used to use radios, and education is so much more online. I mean, they're big issues we probably can't really address today. But if people are listening to all this, and we talked about
connectivity literacy
is a challenge. If people are sitting there thinking, well, I don't really know what to do, there is help available, isn't there, Amanda? And you have covered some of those options in your story.
Yeah, it was interesting that this regional tech hub that's been established, the federal government in 2020 in collaboration with the National Farmers Federation and the Australian Communications Consumer Action Network, established this hub clearly because people were struggling. They didn't know where to go to get independent advice on the technology that they needed. And let's not forget here, we're in a commercial space. We've got all sorts of internet providers promising all sorts of things, and it can be very difficult to sort the wheat from the chaff. So the regional tech hub is a free independent advice and support network that helps people in rural and regional areas to sort out the problems that they've got, decide on the best technology for their needs, and to get themselves connected, and importantly, to stay connected. The technology is constantly changing and there are lots of developments coming to the fore. So it's important that people are given the support that they need to implement this fantastic technology and to be able to use it effectively on a day-to-day basis.
It's amazing that this hub has had 100,000 requests for help. That is a lot.
It certainly is. But it really didn't surprise me, actually. I know that there's a great deal of frustration out there on the part of many people, they simply don't know who to turn to for this kind of independent help. And they waste a lot of money trying various technology, trying to get satellites on the roof and relay systems and boosters and things to work, and end up just being simply frustrated and without an effective service. So it is wonderful that this is now available to people, and clearly it's meeting a large need.
Looking to the future, Amanda, where do you think we will be in 5-10 years? Are you positive about our ability to conquer this digital divide?
I think that the Australian landmass and our physical terrain means that there will always be parts of the country that will be denied good mobile connectivity. We're being promised now that the large part of the continent has access to the internet, and that's largely courtesy of these satellite services, including the low Earth orbit satellites. They're becoming increasingly used as part of the mobile network now, and I can see that improving the mobile coverage for a lot of people. I can also see that these low Earth orbit satellites will become a bigger part of the solution, and that they will see these LEO satellite providers expanding their networks and hopefully meeting the great need that's out there. We're also seeing, a bit of a revolution in mobile connectivity as the telcos start to understand that there's quite a tapped market in regional Australia. And I think that once they see that there's some money to be made by better servicing the regions, that some of these telcos will start to roll out new products to meet those needs. I'm certainly hoping so anyway.
Whoever thought? I've known you for a long time. I never thought that we would be chatting about emerging low Earth orbit satellites, but there you go. Like you say, we'll have to improve our connectivity literacy, don't we?
Absolutely. I think I've had my own challenges since moving to the regions, and it's certainly tested my connectivity literacy from time to time. But I think whenever you've got a young person in the house, you can get some help with your troubleshooting. I'm going to be more concerned when the last of our little chicks fledges and we've got no one here to help me with those sorts of problems. But hopefully by that stage we've got a much more reliable service and we're all enjoying a bit better connectivity than we are now.
I certainly hope so too, Amanda. Thank you so much for your time today.
It was really that creativity and the ingenious solutions that I came across that gave me hope that Australians will always come up with place-based solutions to the problems that they have, and we know, of course, how ingenious, creative, innovative people are in rural and regional Australia. So I expect a lot of the solutions are going to come from those people and from those places.
Thank you, Amanda.
My pleasure.
I'm Terry Cowley from R.M.Williams Outback. Thanks so much for listening.